What's up? It is yet another episode of Bloodhouse, the show where we talk about art house horror movies. I'm your host, Joshua Conkle.
And as always, I'm your co-host, Drusilla Adeline. How are you doing this week, Josh?
Can I be vulnerable with you, Drusilla?
Please. There's no one here other than you and I.
I am really happy. I'm really, really happy for a lot of reasons, not least of which is that I'm now blonde.
Well,
as
we
of
do
this
have more
weekend. I'm feeling myself. I'm feeling big, blonde, and beautiful. I'm just loving it. So there's that. And then Friday, I just had a great weekend. Friday was the 13th, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got to guest on one of my favorite podcasts, Nightmare on Fierce Street, to talk about one of my favorite non-art house horror films, Friday the 13th Part 2. Which is a movie I'm passionately love and a defender of. And so it was a great day. Like, I got my hair bleached, and then I got a lot of messages because that episode launched. And so people were talking about Friday the 13th with me, and specifically that one, which is the burlap sack Jason, which is, I think, the best Jason. I know that you're not a slasher person, so you probably have not very nice things to say about that movie.
Well, here's the nicest thing or the least nice thing I have to say about it. I've never seen it. I've only seen 3 Friday films.
Okay,
I've seen the first one.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen,
which is beautiful, an art film.
It's very good. It's the one that I like the most. It's basically just a ripoff of Bay of Blood. It's great.
Yeah.
With Kevin Bacon getting an arrow through his neck.
Mm-hmm.
And the jump scare at the end freaked me the fuck out. I really liked it. The other one that I've seen in full is Part 5.
Ooh, that's a bad one.
Is that the one with the blue hockey mask?
I'm not sure if it has the blue hockey. We're going to spoil it.
Only one has the blue hockey mask because that's not Jason.
Right, yes, that's the one.
That's the one I've seen.
He's an imposter, Jason, yeah.
Yeah, so I've seen the first one, I've seen Part 5, and then I've seen Jason Takes Manhattan.
Oh, those are some really bad ones, Drusilla.
So that's why I've never seen the rest, because I was like, well, these suck.
I don't know, you don't really like slashers. I think Part 2, and I'm only talking about it because I love it, and I know that we'll never cover it on the show because it's not art, but it's really good. It's the only Friday that's actually pretty scary. And Amy Steele is the final girl, and she's really a great actress, one of the best final girls, certainly the best Friday final girl by a lot, because some of those are real duds. And so I got to talk about that. And last night I had a game night at my house, and this is like the nerdiest thing about me probably, but I love tabletop RPGs like D&D and stuff. And I've never run one because I'm intimidated by like all the stats and math and like complicated stuff. But I found this one called Dread, which is really simple. And instead of a fantasy game, it's a horror movie. And instead of dice, you use a Jenga tower. So anytime a character wants to do something, they have to successfully pull a block. So of course, as it gets more precarious, the game gets scarier and scarier and scarier. So I devised like a slasher story for 6 of my friends, and it was so fun.
This is genius. I want to play this game.
Yeah, let's play. Yeah.
Oh my God. I need to have more game nights again. I used to have game nights frequently before the pandemic happened, and I haven't since. And I have so many new board games I need to play.
Yeah. I'll run a game of Dread anytime for you.
Oh, it sounds amazing. I love a game like that. I love a game with a ridiculous mechanic that makes the game more insane as you go.
Yeah.
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Yeah. And then in terms of things I watched, so I did something that I'll never do again, which is the movie we're going to talk about today. I love passionately. Like, it's in maybe my top 5, certainly my top 10. It's probably my favorite horror movie of the 70s. But I did this thing where I was really excited to talk about it, so I listened to other people's podcasts about it, which I think was a mistake, and I won't do it again because it influences you too much, I think. And some of them were very bad. I won't name them, but I listened to a podcast where immediately they're like, movies from the 70s are so boring. And I was like, bitch, I'll kill you. And I immediately dropped right out of that podcast. I was so mad. But I did listen to a really good episode about this movie of the podcast Sleazoids. And the guest was Sam Zimmerman, who's the programming director of Shudder.
Mhm.
And so on that podcast, I guess the guests curate a double feature. So he picked the movie we're going to talk about today. And his second movie was The Legend of Hell House, which I'd never seen before.
I love The Legend of Hell House.
Oh my God, Drusilla, it's so good. I'd read
With
the
Roddy
book and
McDowell.
oh,
Oh,
he's so
oh,
hot. I don't know why I think
he's
Roddy
so hot in
McDowell
the
is
movie.
hot, but I do. And he's got a
What do you mean?
great
Why do you
turtleneck.
think? Because he's objectively hot. Have you
Do you
seen
think
Fright
he
Night?
is?
Yes.
I have seen Fright Night many times. He's like a middle-aged man, older than me in Fright Night.
Okay,
I don't
take this
think
with a
many
grain
people
of
would
salt
think.
because all of the actors that I'm like, oh my god, he's the sexiest man alive, are always like Steve Buscemi, James Coburn, Rene Auberjonois. Like they are weird looking dudes. So give me a minute on that one.
I really quick, my friend John is an actor and he's on a TV show with Steve Buscemi. And apparently we all have been saying his name wrong all this time, and it's Buscemi. And
Buscemi,
John was like, how do you let people say your name wrong consistently? And he's like, it seems to have stuck, and so that's fine. But he does prefer you say Steve Buscemi. What was I going to say? Oh, I have read the book, The Legend of Hell House, which is among the scariest books that I've ever read in my life. So I don't know why I hadn't seen this, but I just loved it. It's like a good old-fashioned haunted house movie where psychics are being paid to stay in a haunted house. But it's really scary, really beautifully directed. Roddy McDowell has a great turtleneck and glasses combo. I loved it.
it's genuinely scary. It's genuinely
Yeah.
very scary. I flip over that movie. That and like Robert Wise's The Haunting make for
Yes.
such a cozy little B picture run. Because The Haunting, the Wise picture is like pretty scary, but not super scary. It's more atmospheric and vibes, other than the hand scene, which is good God.
Mhm. Yeah.
But then you go to Haunting of Hell House, and you're like, oh, yep, it deserves this title.
It's so scary. I was surprised. It's not nearly as scary as the book, which is truly, I think, that book and maybe Salem's Lot and Gerald's Game by Stephen King are the most I've ever been scared in a book before.
Salem's Lot scared the ever-loving piss out of me as a child reading that book.
Fuck. And that movie
Mhm.
doesn't even, I
Come
like that
close
movie.
at all.
Doesn't come even a fraction of the way of how scary that book is. Oof, that book is so scary. Yeah, so I feel like I've been talking a mile a minute, like I've just done a rail of blow or something, because I've been up since 6, and so I've had like a full, pot of coffee.
I am the opposite. I am a teensy bit hungover, and I woke up an hour ago. So this is going to be a very exciting episode. We are on different wavelengths. Let's have fun.
I always feel like you're the one who's the early riser, and I'm the one who's like just gotten to the mic bedraggled. But maybe that's not right.
I find it very impressive that I'm considered to be the early riser because I am not even remotely. And I typically show up to record this like between 20 minutes to an hour of waking up.
But you're also,
when you look at me, we're on like video camera, and I assume that I look like hot trash every day.
I was just gonna say you look great. Your hair looks like it's been blown out. You're wearing makeup.
That I fell asleep in. Anyway,
what did you do last night besides get turned?
It's part of it's part of some of the movies I've been watching. I can say that I checked off a very, very, very big 80s classic teen movie, I guess you could put it, last night that I had never seen before, that had gotten shit from one of my best friends for having never seen any of these films or anything in the world of these films ever. And she's been giving me shit for like 2 years about this. So I went to Cinephile Video.
Okay.
On the west side. I know that you're Videotech stan, and I adore Videotech. I work in Culver City, so I go to Cinephile. Right. Shout out to Cinephile. And I rented all 4 Karate Kid movies.
Oh, wow.
So
that's fun.
Karate Kid for the first time.
Yeah, great. What did you think?
I thought it was outrageously cute. Like, everyone in that movie is adorable. Like, even Billy Zabka is adorable, and the mom is adorable, and Pat Morita is adorable, and Elizabeth Shue is adorable, and you just want to like hang out and hug everyone in this movie. I was expecting like from the director of Rocky, a teen sports movie about a rivalry in karate. Right. I was expecting the main kid to be insufferable. I was expecting the bullies to be insufferable. I was expecting the mom and the girlfriend to have like no depth of writing to them whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've seen so many like Disney Channel knockoffs of this kind of movie that I was like, I don't need to see the Karate Kid. I get it. And my friend Danny was like, the fuck's wrong with you? Go watch the goddamn Karate Kid movies. I love a movie about a single mother so much. As someone who grew up with a single mother, I love those narratives. And having just watched Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore a few weeks ago, which brought me to tears. And then like this has the same dynamic of that, of like unemployed single mother and her son are going to travel across country for a better life, and they're just going to try and do it. And it's difficult, and they're trying to make each other happy about this move by lying about the things that are stressful to them. And then you also get a pretty sobering look at the effects of America's Japanese internment camps. Like, this movie has a lot in it. I was very impressed.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it.
I've seen the first two movies, but not since I was like a really little kid. I don't really remember them. I know the bad guy, and at least in the first movie, is that blonde actor from all those 80s teen movies who I feel like I'm sort of channeling with my platinum hair right now.
Yes, you are. Yeah, Billy Zabka. He's
that's Billy
very
Zabka.
attractive. He's very attractive.
He's also the bad guy in Just One of the Guys, which is an 80s complicated, if you're a queer person, teen comedy. He's the bad guy in that too. He was the bad guy in a lot of 80s teen movies, and he was really great at it.
And he has since had a renaissance through How I Met Your Mother and Cobra Kai as being like sympathetic dude who got the wrong end of the stick.
Oh, is he in How I Met Your Mother?
I
never watched that. Oh, that's so great.
It's great. It's lovely. That was like my only introduction to Karate Kid before actually seeing the movies, is that Neil Patrick Harris's character is obsessed with the Karate Kid, but he believes that Billy Zabka was the hero of those movies. Okay. And everyone's like, no. And at some point in the later run of the series, they have Ralph Macchio show up, and he throws a fit that that's not the Karate Kid. Billy Zabka's the real Karate Kid. And then there's the reveal that Billy Zabka's been in the room the entire time waiting to meet him. And then Billy Zabka is in all of the final season of How I Met Your Mother as himself, because he's just become friends with Neil Patrick Harris's character. It's really, really cute and wholesome, and just like Billy Zabka looks great still. Anyway, I'm a fan.
That's so funny.
I'm gonna watch the rest of the movies this weekend. Danny specifically told me to do the next Karate Kid. But I'm going to really prioritize watching the fourth one, the next Karate Kid, with baby-faced Hilary Swank. Because that's Danny's favorite that she like grew up on.
Are you going to watch Cobra Kai?
Yeah, I watched the first episode of Cobra Kai last night after watching the Karate Kid, because it kind of like, you don't have to think about the other movies in between. It kind of is just going off that first one. And I really enjoyed it. They really set up William Zabka's character as like having become Miyagi, essentially. Where smart. He's down on his luck. His life sucks. Ralph Macchio is like a successful like business owner in the valley, and his face is everywhere. And he's beloved and successful, and William Zabka's character is like not doing well, and he's working as an apartment handyman in the valley, just like Pat Morita in the first movie. And it goes on like a humbling journey for both of them. It's interesting. I need to watch the rest of the series, but I also need to watch the rest of the movies. The other movie that I finally checked off my watch list this week, which is going to be another one of those what took you so long to see this, but also why did you even watch this? X many years on. So I finally watched Sucker Punch.
I've never seen that.
Yeah, I'd never seen it either because it came out when I was probably in high school or something.
Yeah.
And even then, when that first came out, the kind of general reaction was, why does this exist?
Yeah, I remember.
This just looks sexist. Guys, this just looks sexist. Okay. And so I don't know, I was bored. And I'm a big fan of like maximalist mid 2000s movies. So I love like the Charlie's Angels movies. I love the Ocean's movies. I love Smokin' Aces and all those like Guy Ritchie movies. So I was kind of like, and I love Speed Racer and all the Wachowski stuff. So I was kind of like, you know what? I like Zack Snyder's Watchmen. Everything else he's ever made, I really disliked. But we'll give this a shot. And like, boy, howdy, is this barely a movie? It's like a comic book adaptation that becomes a music video that becomes a video game. All the while trying to be a movie. And it is also all the while trying to be feminist while constantly putting its lead actresses in skimpy outfits and having them follow the direction of Scott Glenn from Silence of the Lambs. It's very odd. But you know what? A young Oscar Isaac and a young John Hamm are both in it as the villains.
Well, you can't complain about that.
No. And Oscar Isaac is basically doing his best Gomez Addams as a pimp the whole film. With like a little mustache. And
interesting. I'm into that.
It's super fun and outrageously stupid at the same time. And I just wish it had been made by someone like the Wachowskis or someone with a modicum of like understanding of how to do something that wild and big and stupid.
Sure.
Well, without it feeling hackneyed. However, I did love the twist ending to this movie, which sees one of the main characters getting on a bus. And the twist reveal of the whole movie is that the bus is headed to Fort Wayne, Indiana. That two of the main characters of this movie were Hoosiers all along. I appreciate a twist ending like that.
You know, my boyfriend's a Hoosier, right? Have I told you that?
I did not. We need to talk about this.
I'm with an Indiana boy.
You got a corn-fed Indiana boy.
He's from Carmel, which I guess is a wealthy suburb.
That's where I'm from.
Are you kidding?
And it's not Carmel, it's Carmel.
Carmel
by the sea.
Carmel by the sea.
Carmel,
that's why
Indiana.
I'm such a California blonde boy. I can't help it.
Yeah. So
shall we?
We shall. What are we watching this week, Josh?
Boy, oh boy, I am so thrilled. I love almost all the movies that we've covered so far, but this one is truly a touch point for me. We are covering from 1971, directed by John D. Hancock, Let's Scare Jessica to Death.
I'm calling on all the spirits of everyone who's ever died in this house. Jessica. I'm calling on all the spirits of everyone who's ever died in this house. Jessica.
Paramount Pictures presents Let's Scare Jessica to Death.
Now,
oh my God.
Before we go into anything on this, it should be mentioned at the top that this is like one of your favorite movies.
Yes, one of my absolute favorites.
Mm-hmm. So
probably my favorite horror film of the 70s, except for maybe it's like Black Christmas and then this.
That's a very high mark because 70s horror is like,
great decade for horror. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. So, will you elaborate to us the plot of Let's Scare Jessica to Death? What is this movie about, which is titled Let's Scare Jessica to Death? This is not what you think it is.
Yeah, the title's very misleading, which I'm sure we'll talk about. And the title itself has an interesting history. This movie follows Jessica, played by the brilliant Zorha Lapert, who has just been released from some sort of mental institution for a mental illness that is never pinpointed. And she and her husband, Duncan, and their friend, Woody are moving from Manhattan to a farmhouse in Connecticut. So that she can kind of recuperate. And then her husband, Duncan, has also decided he doesn't want to be a classical musician in the Philharmonic anymore. He wants to be an apple farmer. So they're moving to this beautiful farm in Connecticut. And as soon as they get there, they find that a squatter named Emily, who's like a hippie girl, has been living in the house. And they kind of befriend her and invite her to stay because it's 1971. In 2021, you'd be like, get the fuck out of my house. I'm calling the police. But this is still a little bit like hitchhiker, free love, brotherhood kind of flower child times. But, you know, Jessica may or may not be mentally ill, and she's hearing voices and she thinks that she's seeing things. And it's like sort of like a Rosemary's Baby, House of Psychotic Women by Keira Diligenese, sort of like, is this narrator reliable? Is something supernatural going on, or is she going out of her mind? And it's like that kind of movie. And then that's it, really, unless you want to say anything else about it. I mean,
yeah, this movie was sold to me for years, and we can kind of get into our separate histories with it in a second, but it's always been billed as being, I guess in modern discussion, it's billed as being one of those psychotic women movies like Robert Altman's Images, or some of the like early Giallo offerings like Orgasmo and Paranoia, or The Forbidden Photos of a Lady Above Suspicion, or Rosemary's Baby, or Repulsion, things like that. But the original marketing for the movie, which has an amazing poster, kind of sells it more as like a hokey William Castle kind of like gimmick, like, we're gonna set up stringed skeletons to come after Jessica. Ooh, we're gonna like...
Right, well, the title suggests that too, which I guess this is a great doorway to talking about the weird history of this movie, because originally it was written as a satire called It Drinks Hippie Blood, which is a great title on its own. And it was conceived as a movie about like a group of hippies on a lakeside, and a monster keeps coming out of the lake and eating them off, sort of slasher style. But when John D. Hancock was hired as director, he was a theater guy. He's like a really serious theater director, and he cast all theater people. These are all well-known theater actors from New York and Chicago. And he conceived this as a really serious film and completely rewrote it. He wanted to call the movie just Jessica. But when it was picked up for distribution by Paramount, they decided that that title wasn't catchy enough. And so they insisted on the title, Let's Scare Jessica to Death, which is a great title. I would suggest perhaps for a different film. It really does not fit this movie super well. And I've heard many people over the years say that they thought that they were going to get this like sort of fun, weird thing that is like not the more serious weird thing that they actually get.
It is far more playful than anything in this movie. This movie has a very kind of like somber, slow pace and tone to it that like amplifies in dread as it goes. But it's also not just simply that psychotic woman alone movie either. It does take like multiple turns into different, I guess, horror subgenres here and there in ways that are both unexpected, but also aren't things that on paper you would naturally glom together. Because there's kind of three other horror subgenres that are kind of like dropped into this movie at different points that kind of all like gel together, and a way that if you wrote it on paper, you'd be like, no, you can't have a movie that's like all four of these things at the same time. But it does all four of them.
It does it, and it does it all really well. Yeah, it's like a paranoid, fragile woman movie. It kind of feels like a folk horror movie in many ways.
A ghost movie,
haunted house film.
Yeah,
and a vampire movie.
It's a vampire movie. It's also a zombie movie.
Yes, that's right. It is. You're right.
It's a lot. I think
that's 5 things.
Yeah, I think the closest I would compare it to, for audiences that aren't familiar with this film, in terms of like the way it treats its actors and the subject matter, and also kind of some of the directions it takes, is close to one of my favorite films, Carnival of Souls.
Yeah,
And I
can see
think
that comparison.
Carnival of Souls holds a place in my heart, kind of the same way that this holds a place in your heart.
Yeah. Yeah. This movie to me is so special, not the least of which is because Zorha Lampert's performance is so like achingly vulnerable. She's so good in this movie that you feel every jab of psychological pain that Jessica does right from the very first frame. So this movie opens with them. So these are three hippies that are in their 30s, so they kind of read as like a little bit too old to be hippies, which is interesting in and of itself because it's 1971, and a lot of this movie is like kind of an elegy for the flower child movement and sort of the death of the 60s. This movie is like really speaking directly to all of that because they drive literally a hearse that has the word love, a sticker that says love on the side. So right away, they stop at a cemetery in their new hometown, and so that Jessica can do grave rubbings, which is such a chic hobby that we've both talked about getting into. And so you get a kind of sense of what this movie is right away. And the score is really important too. The score is like half really sad, haunting, like sort of Spanish guitar, and the other half is synth. Like the horror score is synth, which is interesting because it's one of the first horror movies to use synth as its score. And the cinematography is like beautiful sunsets and autumn leaves and stuff. So the movie makes you feel really sad and lonely, like right from the beginning. And you know right away that Jessica is hearing voices because you get her inner monologue and she's like, don't tell them what you saw. They won't believe you. So she's always talking to herself. And yeah, it's so good. The movie it's just such an exercise in mood and tone, and famously for us, that is often enough. Come for the mood, stay for the mood. Although I do think this movie offers more than mood, as opposed to some of the other movies we've said this about. Yeah, what's your history with this movie?
Well, I can't remember the very first time that I heard of this movie, but I think the point to which I started hearing about it so frequently that it like finally stuck in my mind, and I was like, I need to watch this. I think was from you. I think was from seeing your tweets. Because I think you talked about it at one point in conjunction with episodes of Serious Unfortunate Events that you were writing or had written.
Okay.
And I was like, oh yeah, that movie. I keep hearing about that movie. Fine, I'll watch that movie. And the first time I saw it, again, I had like no clue what to expect from it. I was expecting something in between Robert Altman and William Castle, and it's neither. It was like playing on one of those like faux TV channels like Tubi. It wasn't Tubi, but it was like proto Tubi. So it had like commercials in it, but I like couldn't find copies of it other than that. So it totally ruined the tone to watch this movie like technically on television with ads. Yeah. And it totally like pulled me out of it and made it like really dull and dry. And then in lockdown, I think was when we finally got the Blu-ray release. And I was like, I need to watch this movie again. I need to give it a shot. And it was being put out by Scream Factory around the same time they were doing The Tenant. And I was like, well, I'm buying The Tenant. I might as well buy Let's Scare Jessica to Death. And I'll give that one a rewatch too. And I rewatched it in quarantine with my partner at the time, who was a very big folk horror fan. And we were both like shell-shocked. It felt like the first time watching it for me. Yeah. Some of the slower, more relationship stuff at the beginning of like, let's go spray incesticide over the apple trees as it was the same as I remembered it. But the rest like took on a very different, almost alchemical quality to it, to the point that like the final 20 minutes just felt like a fever dream. Which I think is the aim and the point.
It's very hypnotic. It really casts a spell on you.
Yeah.
My friend Andy just watched it for the first time this weekend based on my recommendation. And I think he said It's like having a slow motion anxiety attack. And I was like, oh, that's kind of a nice way to put it.
Yeah, it really is. I think that's a very good way of putting it. What's your history with it, Josh? How long has this been a part of your life?
Almost from the beginning. So I can't often claim this, but I'm very ahead of the curve on Let's Scare Jessica to Death, which was a almost forgotten lost movie until the 2010s, really, when it got its first DVD release. And I feel like, the 2010s were very much a conversation with the 70s. So all of these 70s movies like this, Messiah of Evil, and other things like that were kind of getting drug up. But I saw this movie on afternoon television when I was a little boy. And I can even tell you when it was because we lived in Navy housing in Philadelphia where we only lived for 1 year. So I know that the year was 1988, which means that I was 7 years old and watching this on like a Saturday or Sunday afternoon, on TV. And at that time, when you're a little kid, you don't often like things from before you were born because all the aesthetic notes of it are weird to you. And I definitely felt that. But I looked it up in the newspaper to see what it was. Like they used to have the schedules for TV in the newspaper. And so I looked up like, what is this? And I always remembered it. And then I saw it again in the early 2010s. I was at Videology in Brooklyn, New York, where I rented the DVD. And I was like, fuck, this is so good. Like, no wonder this stuck in my head. And so I've been a cheerleader for it ever since then. And so I feel like from my perspective, anecdotally, it feels like within just the past 5 or so years and really critical mass in the past, since 2020, it feels like people have been discovering this, which feels great.
Yeah, it's one that kind of has been talked about on the periphery by people like Kim Newman and Mark Kermode and established horror critics and writers, and it's been the cover of Kayla Janice's House's Iconic Women for years has been a still from this movie. But it's not one that's had that kind of wide recognition that Repulsion has or that Carnival of Souls has. Because it's been impossible to get. It didn't get a DVD release until way late, and the DVD art was terrible. And then it only just got a Blu-ray release using that awesome original poster. Which poster has nothing to do with the movie.
It's wild. Somebody on one of the podcasts I listened to said that they always thought that this was a blaxploitation film because they thought the person on that poster was Ruby Dee. And once I heard that, I was like, oh my God, it does look like Ruby Dee.
Wow, I can't unsee that. Yeah, the original poster is a 4-color screen print. 4-color screen print of green, blue, purple, and pink. And it's a woman standing with a fire poker above her head in a boat.
Which is never in the movie, I don't think.
Never in the movie. As skeleton hands reach up to the boat. And then it has this beautiful 70s tile treatment on it, which is nice and curvy and wavy and beautiful. It is wild. Again, Paramount had no clue how to market this movie.
Right. So the movie opens with a beautiful shot, which is the first shot of the movie and the last shot of the movie, which is Jessica in a boat on a beautiful lake at dawn. And you hear her internal monologue, which you'll hear through the entire movie. And she's like, dream or nightmare. I can't believe that it happened. And yet I know that it happened. And then we go to the present where they're in the cemetery and they've pulled over. They're moving to their new house. They get inside the house and Jessica, we see the legs, but presumably Jessica sees the whole person of an intruder in the house or a squatter. And then her husband immediately is right at her side. And he says, don't worry, I saw it too. So right away what kind of relationship they have. It's a very interesting marriage because it feels very patronizing. And again, they never say what her mental illness is. And you're getting her interior monologue all throughout the movie, which is getting more and more paranoid. So you're like, is she going insane or is this actually happening? And it's it's a very patronizing marriage. The soundscape is really important in this movie. It wasn't in the first cut of the film, but John D. Hancock felt like the movie needed something else, which I imagine is true, because if I try to imagine this movie without that soundscape, without all that whispering and interior monologue, I feel like it would feel very flat and dry.
It is absolutely one of the things that makes it as terrifying as it is for the whole run of the movie, because it's not an action-packed horror movie. It doesn't reach the points of something like Repulsion with the arms coming out of the walls, or other indie small features like this from the 70s and 60s, like Night of the Living Dead and Carnival of Souls, have very like big like set pieces that this kind of doesn't have. So it maintains that tension throughout with that almost like Eraserhead, David Lynch level of soundscape throughout, which is just like, it makes even the most simple things throughout the movie, like someone kissing someone, become very sinister immediately.
Yeah. There's a scene where, I mean, right in the beginning in the cemetery, she sees what we assume is a ghost of a girl in a white dress who looks like a young Natasha Lyonne, frankly. And you hear Jessica in her head, you hear her interior monologue, and she says, "Don't tell them what you see. They won't believe you." So right away we know that, like, oh, this narrator is unreliable. Then there's the squatter, Emily, who's this really pretty redheaded hippie girl. And, she's invited to stay very quickly because these are hippies. And there's like a dinner scene where Duncan, the husband, he plays the upright bass, and she sings and plays the guitar, and they do a song together, which is very beautiful. And it's called "Stay Forever, My Love," which is like really on the nose, but in a good way. And you hear Jessica's interior monologue, and she's always whispering to herself. And this is only inside of her head. And she's like, he likes her. He likes her. So right away, there's this like sort of love triangle. Well, love quadrangle, really, because there's also Woody, who's the single man, and he hits on Emily right away. So it's like all of these characters are vying for each other's affection. Also in that scene, they're eating and they finish dinner, and Jessica looks down at all their plates and they're like really bloody, and she's like, "It's blood, Jessica, it's blood." So she sees that like Emily is like very happily eating blood, basically. Yeah,
it's beautiful. No, and so I feel like this is a good time to delve into the mystery and the history behind the house, and kind of how it leads into a bit of a ghost story.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a turn that I wasn't expecting when I first saw it, that like we're gonna just completely not abandon, but like sidestep the psychotic woman thing and bring some of this evidence in. But there's photos in the attic of a previous family.
The Bishops. This is called the Old Bishop House in town. And by the way, they visit town, and it's all weird old men who are very hostile to them and all have weird bandages on their bodies. That's
yes. Important. I love the townsfolk so much.
Yeah. No women either. It's all old men. No, not a single woman.
That's true.
Yeah, isn't that weird?
That's very weird. And they're all just sitting on their porches watching them come in the hearse.
They're like, "Damn hippies." And also the first time our characters go to town, they're like in buying eggs, and one of the old men goes to their car and scratches off the love sticker with his foot. They're like very, very hostile to these folks, which like, who likes a hippie? You can kind of understand it. But to your point about the Old Bishop House, there's a scene near the beginning when all four of them are together, and it's their first night, and they decide to have a seance. And this is an interesting scene because this is originally from the satire script, and it's one of the few scenes that the studio insisted stay in the movie. John D. Hancock didn't want to have a seance scene, but even he admitted later on that it ended up being really good. So they have this seance, and Jessica's like, "Will all the spirits who lived in this house, please come join us?" And you hear voices from a wedding ceremony in the Victorian era, presumably. That's when the bishops lived. And it's really cool. And I have a theory about this, because everyone has a theory about whether or not Jessica's imagining the events of this movie or whether it's real. But I have a third path that I've never heard anyone else say. And I only thought of it in this watch. And I've seen this maybe 10 times. I think that maybe Jessica is psychic. not insane.
Interesting.
But she's literally, first of all, she tells a story on day one about how she was visited by the ghost of her father back in Manhattan 5 days after he died. In this scene, they're doing a seance and she hears the voices of the Bishop family in the past. Later, we always get her whispering to herself in her head, but she also gets Emily's voice whispering to her as we start to believe that there's something nefarious about Emily. And I think it could be that Emily knows that she can hear her and is fucking with her by like whispering these fucked up things to Jessica in her head. So I think that there's like a third possibility, which is that Jessica's not insane, but she's psychic and she doesn't, it's sort of like John and Don't Look Now. Like she's sort of in denial about it or like really bothered by it. She also sees what she believes is the ghost of baby Natasha Lyonne, but turns out that's a real person. Yeah. What do you think about that?
I don't know. It's very, I've always kind of taken like a mixture of the main two beliefs of this movie, because there's basically kind of two options most audiences take away from this movie, which is Jessica's a nutter. Wow, she's crazy. Look at all these things she imagines. And then the other option is, to quote Rosemary Woodhouse, this isn't a dream, this is all real. The idea that, no, this myriad of supernatural stuff is all real and is all happening to her at the same time. I don't know, my take has always been, why can't it be both?
Right. That was always my take too.
Yeah, that she is, yes, a like mentally unstable woman, and some of these things are imagined, and some of these whisperings are imagined and heightened, but some of them are real. So I've always kind of taken it as like the ghost story aspect of this, that like feels more ghosty and feels the things like the seance scene. And other scenes later on, and the kind of like running belief throughout the movie that this could be a ghost thing feels like a product of a paranoid delusion on behalf of Jessica and the movie. But then the thing that's really happening is vampires.
Yeah, so spoiler alert, Emily is a vampire. She is Abigail Bishop of the Bishop family, who supposedly drowned in the lake or something on her wedding day, but the townspeople say she still stalks the countryside because she does. And they all have bandages on their bodies because she, sort of like the Hunger, it's not a traditional vampire where she has fangs. She has a knife and she cuts people and just drinks from them that way. So yeah, it's an untraditional vampire, which I think I always like. It's like she can walk in the sun. She, like none of those old school vampire things really apply to her.
She like lives in the water.
She lives in the water. There's a great scene where Jessica is swimming with the other hippies. They're soaping each other up because I guess they don't have plumbing in their house. And a woman with red hair in the lake starts pulling at her legs. And of course, no one else sees it and no one believes her.
All of the water scenes in this movie are the most terrifying scenes in the entire movie.
Yeah. Yeah. The movie's beautiful. I mean, this part of Connecticut is gorgeous. It's filmed in November, so you have the autumn leaves, and it speaks to death. I'm glad that you mentioned Rosemary's Baby earlier, because I don't know if it's just because it's one of my other top 5 favorite horror movies, but to me, they're in kind of conversation with each other a little bit, because they're both psychotic women movies, first of all, or paranoid women movies, or whatever you want to call them. But Rosemary's Baby is set in 1966. So you've got the beginning of the free love movement and, like a domestic woman's place within that movement. And you've got this in 1971, which is the end of that movement. So between the two movies, you get the rise and fall of like the hippie free love movement, which I think is a really interesting, that would make a really good double feature.
Honestly, every single time I think about Let's Scare Jessica to Death, I always think about it in the context of, wow, it would make a really great double feature with blank.
Yeah.
Because there's so many other movies. Because it has that kind of folk horror atmosphere and vibe to it, if we're going to keep using the V word. But then it does have the supernatural like underpinnings of not exactly Hammer, but some of the stuff that was being done in Europe.
It does feel like a Hammer movie. I've never
Blood
thought of
Spattered
that.
Bride.
Yeah.
Some of the Spanish ones, like Count Dracula's Great Love. It has like that kind of vibe and atmosphere to the supernatural stuff, but then it also has the mentally unstable woman stuff of Rosemary's Baby, and
it also has menacing old people. You know, like the townspeople are very menacing and kind of feel like a cult, even though they're just like, I guess, the victims of Emily the Vampire.
But they are a cabal in a way. But the one that I don't know, the movie that I always feel like would make the best double feature with Let's Scare Jessica to Death is another 70s, let's move out to the woods to make you feel better. My insane wife that I love, who then meets a little girl in the country that we're not sure if she's real or not. And that's Robert Altman's Images.
Yeah.
Both of these have like the exact same vibe and atmosphere. They both feel very autumnal in different ways. One is United Kingdom, one is East Coast US, and they both like are beset by like whispers and soft little something's going on. And they both feature like pretty stark, almost Lynchian like logic losses in terms of like the world around them starts shifting and changing. I don't know. I think they're very different. Honestly, like a triple feature of Carnival of Souls, Let's Scare Jessica to Death, and Images would be such a great night out.
Really good.
I would lose my mind.
I want to get your take on something about this movie. So this movie, I cannot overstate how incredible Zorha Lampert's performance is in this movie. It's so beautiful. But the performance by Mary Claire Costello as Emily is very good too. This movie is mainly interested in those two performances. It's less interested in the male characters, which is another thing that I like about this movie. And I don't mean that as a bad thing. It's good. These women are more interesting, and the movie's just about them. So a lot of the chatter about this movie I've discovered is like about a sapphic element to this.
Yes.
Which I've never thought before.
What?
I've seen this movie like 10 times and I've never gotten a lesbian vibe from this. I thought that was crazy. To me, it felt like a straight person's read on this movie or something. Because like just because two women are alone together doesn't mean they're lesbians. It doesn't feel like a particularly sexual movie anyway. And I just thought that was wild. It just has never occurred to me. So I wanted to get your opinion.
That take is wild to me to hear from you because I've always seen this as a sexual film. And I've always read it as a lesbian film.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I guess I'm just a dum-dum. I don't feel that.
Well, okay. So like we've been saying about it's like atypical vampiric roots. The narrative of this movie is almost exactly the narrative of Sharon LaFanu's Carmilla.
Yes.
And there's a lot of shared ideas in Carmilla and Jessica.
Well, Carmilla is like explicitly lesbian.
Yes,
right?
Exactly. And this is less so, but still in a way that because of its other like narrative tropes that pull into Carmilla, it kind of leeches back and forth in kind of a conversation with that. And so it kind of like infers sapphic desire from Carmilla into this based on the other trappings that it's using. But I'm honestly like the scene that we were just talking about of her in the lake where she rises out of the water with like the ghostly pale face and in the Victorian wedding dress. That's a very, very scary moment, and that's a very, very memorable moment. But what people don't talk about is how that moment ends, which is she comes up to Jessica and she starts fucking macking on her neck.
Yeah.
What do you mean this isn't a lesbian film?
I just don't think of it that way. It's a vampire film, and like I don't know. She just kind of like.
But almost every female-led vampire movie is a lesbian vampire movie because all vampires are bisexual.
Well, there's that. That's true. That is true.
But that's why I don't know. It's part of the reason why I connected with Blood Spattered Bride, which is also a Carmilla kind of update for the post-hippie era. It was made in Spain around this time because it has a very similar atmosphere and vibe and approach to it. And I feel like I don't know. It's part of this movie's like response to the hippie movement and free love movement is brought in terms of this movie's sexuality, which I think this movie does play with sex and sexuality more than I think you're implying, because Emily's character kind of operates. There's this whole trope of movies that is more in like, I always think of it as being either porn or art house or both. Things like Pier Paolo Pasolini's Teorema, Buñuel's Susanna, which are always about a stranger comes into a family's enclave and like shakes things up and ruins it by seducing everyone involved. The South Korean movie The Handmaiden,
Rocky Horror Picture Show is kind of
Housemaid, actually. Yeah, Rocky Horror Picture Show is also like is exactly that. You mean like this? And so that's exactly what's going on here, where Emily seduces Woody, Emily seduces the husband, and then Emily tries to seduce Jessica. And part of Jessica's paranoid schizophrenia or other unnamed mental affliction, I guess this movie is implying throughout, comes with an aversion to sex and sexuality, which we see in Repulsion.
Right, which I don't think is, that's why I don't think the movie is particularly sexual. I guess I misspoke, because what I do think that the movie is interested in romance and relationships and the power that exists within those dynamics. Because again, these are hippies, it's free love. So outwardly, they're all like soaping each other up in the lake and stuff like that. And it's all very, 1971. But we, of course, get Jessica's interior monologue. So we know that she's paranoid about Emily getting close to her husband, and she's unsure about where she stands in her own marriage. And so like outwardly she's very free love, hippy dippy, but inwardly she seems a bit frigid, to your point, and like she's worried about this entire situation. I guess I do agree with you in a long way around, is like I think that this movie is interested in romance and relationships and the power dynamics that come within that. I just didn't think about it as a very sexual movie, which is maybe splitting hairs.
Well, I mean, I read it that way, but that says more about me, probably. But I think that this movie is having a very interesting conversation about the sexual politics of the hippie movement and the free love generation, which we've had since then more explicitly. But, in 1971, 1972, no one was talking about in this way really yet, about how that whole idea of the free love generation kind of being like male con to convince women into having sexual encounters that they otherwise would not be comfortable with. And that's kind of what this movie is getting at in some of its discussions of relationships. But then it brings Emily into that to kind of be the like monster sticking point to vilify this idea. And it's a ghostly supernatural bisexual.
Yeah.
So I don't know from like a sexual politics perspective where this movie lands for me, and maybe that's part of the reason why I don't return to this one as much as I return to Images or Blood Spattered Bride or the Polanski films or Carnival of Souls, which I watch all the goddamn time. This is kind of one that like I don't know comes across my plate every few years, and I'm like, oh yeah, let's give that a want to watch again. It's great. I have a lot of fun with it, but I'm not like constantly dwelling on it, thinking about it, and planning to rewatch it. And I think it's kind of because of that. Because when I watch it, I get frustrated because I'm just like, just make out with Emily. Come on, you dork. Be a vampire with Emily. That's what everyone wants.
Yeah.
You lame.
I think it's a bit of a feminist film. Well, first of all, I will say, I think that all of the things that we're talking about this movie being about, like the end of the flower child movement and the sexual politics of the 60s and early 70s, I don't think this movie is aware that it's about those things. I think it's accidental and of the time, which is not a knock on the movie. And I think that comes directly from John D. Hancock, who was sort of bewildered by that reaction in the moment, but years later was like, oh yeah, it is about all those things. I think it's just of the time. And so that it's just like a zeitgeisty thing.
It does a really good job of capturing the zeitgeist at that moment. Because again, this is made by like artsy New York theater folk, not like sleazy exploitation horror folk. So it's going to have a bit more of a like almost subconscious ideological bent in its filmmaking, because it's bringing what the writer and director and actors are bringing to those roles. And I think because of that, it does have a proto-feminist zeitgeisty perspective on these relationships, but it then in turn also has a very of its time almost homophobic glean to that in a way that modern audiences really don't deal with as much, but it's more fun to just be like, yay, lesbian monster, woohoo, which I'm always here for.
I don't know that I really buy that, frankly. I think that this movie captures that moment in history better than almost any other movie. You know, like you're a post-Manson family and you're kind of dealing with the failure of the hippie movement. But I think this movie is kind of feminist because one take that I've never bought, even as a little kid, I don't believe that Jessica is crazy or going insane. I feel like the world is doing, I think specifically her husband is doing this to her. It's a bit like Guy and Rosemary. Like there's no scenario in which Jessica is mentally ill, seriously. It's just that this is being put upon her. So I think it's feminist in that respect. I don't know. I guess I can understand that some of the politics might be a little outdated by our 2022 lenses, but I also think that that's okay.
No, absolutely.
Different time. Yeah.
No, I do think it's a feminist film, but I do find it very interesting that the kind of like spark that sets the flame of this movie's like narrative and fear and kind of the, you know, journey through this woman's psyche to expose the things that are unsatisfactory to terrifying in her relationship and her relationship with men is sparked off by an overtly sexual, bisexual other woman.
Well, you're right about that. Maybe I could be turned around to your way of thinking. I do think that the character of Jessica is like pretty frigid. Like she doesn't seem to like have any sexual feelings towards any gender because of what she's been going through and the way her shitty husband treats her, frankly. So that's an interesting aspect to this movie as well. Like, yeah, what undoes her ultimately in this movie or tries to undo her is like romance. And so that's interesting. Basically what does happen though, ultimately story wise, is that Emily has killed everyone else and Emily tries to get her, and all the weird townspeople come to the house and try to get her, and she like pushes off on a boat, and like we end there, which is the closing shot is the same as the opening shot.
Can I just quickly say that Emily's posture at the very end of the movie, watching Jessica in the boat as all of the townsfolk are kind of amassed on the shoreline, is fucking terrifying, because she's got this weird like slouch and bent to her back and her neck that like it's full daylight, like it's just a bunch of people on a shoreline. It shouldn't be that scary, but in the context of everything that's happening and the way that she's holding herself, it is so fucked up and weird and creepy.
She's very good in the movie. I mean, everyone talks about Zorha Lampert's performance, which is right, because it carries the movie and it is truly, again, very incredible. Zorha Lampert never got her due in film, but she was a very legendary Broadway actor, like very serious theater person. And Mary Claire Costello, who plays Emily, Zorha brought into the project because they'd done a couple of plays together. And Mary Claire was a very serious Chicago actor. So she was working at like Steppenwolf and like all those really important Chicago theaters. So these are like really, and even the men and even the silent girl who we think is a ghost, but isn't, they're all like very important theater actors of the 70s. Which is interesting too. It gives the movie a sort of pedigree because they all are talented. These aren't like waiters in LA who are like just wanting to get their shot, which we often see in low budget horror movies. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Some of those actors are very good, but just to say that these are like very, very very important, very pedigreed theater actors. So that helps the movie a lot too.
They bring a good amount of sincerity to the performances that like helps you live in with the like, again, the camera work is pretty close to like what George Romero was doing in Night of the Living Dead, where things are a bit more like shaky on the moment. They were using, not the greatest cameras. They were using what they would have used to shoot like the news and stuff like that at the time.
Yeah.
So it has a very scrappy, like, this is really happening kind of quality that a lot of movies coming out of the late 60s that were so, arch and styled didn't have. But I think this one falls in a really, really beautiful place of being like right in line with post Easy Rider, John Cassavetes kind of like indie New York theater to independent film world, while also having another foot in the like post Romero indie horror boom at the same time. In a way that there's very little crossover in that world. You would think there would be more of it, but there's not.
Yeah, there's not. Do you like the title of this film?
I love the title of this film.
Okay. Do you like the title of this film for this film? That's my real question.
I will say yes. I will say yes, because I think I like the dissonance between the title and the film, and I like the title to get butts in seats, because, listen, I work in film marketing.
Yeah,
technically,
I get it.
So thinking about copy lines and like alternate titles for films is part of my job. And so I think there's something like winky and goofy and fun about using that title for this movie. But at the end of the day, if I made this movie, I would be pissed that that was the title.
Yeah, same. He wanted the movie to be called Jessica, which is a bit of a boring title. Paramount is right about, but it worked for Rebecca.
There's tons of great like 70s independent horror movies that are just a woman's name.
Yeah. I don't know if I mean, I'm used to this movie being called Let's Scare Jessica to Death, because that's the world that we live in and that's the name of the movie. But I do think that Paramount was right that it would get butts in seats, and I know that they're only concerned about the bottom line. My anecdotal feeling about it is that this has gotten the wrong sort of butts in seats, because the people think they're getting one kind of movie and then they get another. They get like an art film, and that has like harmed the legacy of this movie in some way. That's all.
This is true and fair. However, here's a fun question for you. Yeah. If this movie wasn't called Let's Scare Jessica to Death, and Paramount still insisted on it not being called Jessica, what do you think is a superior alternate title for the movie?
Certainly not It Drinks Hippie Blood, although that's a great title for some other movie. I think like, I don't know, maybe a mysterious title like The House by the Lake, or The Old Bishop House, or Whispers, or something like that. I don't know.
Whispers would have been a great title for this movie. Oh my god.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think, because even like The Bishop House feels like the 2010s title from this movie, or something like that.
House by the Lake feels very 70s, although I feel like that's Taken. Isn't that a 70s horror movie already? It feels like it is, if it's not.
I mean, there's The Little Girl Who Lived Down the Lane. I feel like the better titles for this movie are kind of the long, insane Italian giallo titles.
Giallo-type titles.
Yeah, like, which, I mean, this is almost a giallo title. But
it
like,
is, really.
The Red Queen Kills 7 Times, or Forbidden Photos, The Lady Above Suspicion.
7 Dolls for an August Moon, or whatever.
Your Vice is a Locked Room and Only I Have the Key. Like,
yeah.
I just looked up the Italian title for this, because of course they would have retitled it in Italy. And I kind of think it's better.
What is it? It's going to be crazy, I know it.
La Morte corre incontro a Jessica, which translates to Death Runs to Meet Jessica.
Oh, I like that.
Right? Doesn't that, like, it eschews the kind of goofier quality of Let's Scare Jessica to Death, while still having death and, like, fear kind of worked into the title. I think Death Runs to Meet Jessica, have you titled it like that? It probably would have fit a bit more into that art house mold.
Death Becomes Her would have been a good title. They would have beat that other movie.
Can we live in a world where this is Death Becomes Her and the Meryl Streep movie is Let's Scare Jessica to Death?
Yeah.
Because that works. How does that actually
It does.
work?
That's a great title for this. Well, I love this movie. I'm so glad I got the chance to talk about it. Let's play Have They Seen It, shall we?
Yes,
the game where we speculate wildly about whether notable figures have seen the feature. Do you want to go first or shall I?
I'll go first. So I think we've mentioned another filmmaker quite a bit who is still alive for better or worse. So he has...
Oh, that's so shady. Okay, where are we going with this?
Who has had many years to potentially see Let's Scare Jessica to Death, that we've mentioned a good amount of his body of work today and on many other episodes of this podcast, who, I don't know, considering those films, you would think maybe he would enjoy this movie, but I don't know if he's even seen it. And considering that he worked with Paramount for quite a bit at this time, do you think Roman Polanski has seen Let's Scare Jessica to Death?
Yeah, I do, unfortunately, and I think he doesn't like it. I think he's a dick about it. I think he's like, this is trying to be Rosemary's Baby. This is not as good as Rosemary's Baby or The Tenant. Like, blah, blah, blah. You know, like, I feel like he's a real jerk about it. What do you think?
I feel like he was probably at Paramount having early discussions on Chinatown or something like that. And Bob Evans... Good old Robert Evans was like, you gotta come see the latest acquisition we got, baby. Come on, Dem, we're gonna watch it. And they were probably very coked up in a screening room somewhere on Gower watching Let's Scare Jessica to Death, circa 1970, 1971, the earliest cut of it. He probably saw a version of it without the whispers.
Oh, God.
And he's probably since forgotten it entirely.
Oh, I'm sure he has. I'm sure he's forgotten this. I think there's a world where he, even though he's made a bunch of them, where he doesn't watch horror movies really because he doesn't think that they're serious enough. Like, I think he's like that kind of asshole.
You know, I've seen a lot of interviews with him, but I've never seen an interview with him talking about anything other than his own movies. So yeah, I guess he is that kind of asshole. I've never really seen an interview of Polanski talking about his appreciation for the horror genre, which is interesting because he's made, like we've mentioned, a ton of them, but not just psychological thrillers like Repulsion and The Tenant and Rosemary's Baby. He also made The Fearless Vampire Killers. So, like, he must enjoy the genre.
He sucks so bad.
He does suck so bad.
Horrible person.
He sucks so bad. Got it. But fuck, his movies are so good.
I know. We've given him enough lip service though, so I'm gonna hit you with one. This is a person we've talked about a lot lately because he's my homosexual lover. I want to know if director of The Northman, Robert Eggers, has seen not Rosemary's Baby. What are we talking about? Let's Scare Jessica to Death. Has Robert Eggers seen Let's Scare Jessica to Death?
Listen, there's no way on God's green earth that the director of The Witch has not seen Let's Scare Jessica to Death. Come on.
Agree.
He's absolutely seen it. He absolutely loves it. And he's listening to this episode being like, I don't know what Josh is saying. I've been rallying for this movie for years. And he's going to get to this part and hear that awful impression of himself and be like, they get me. They understand me.
No, if he's
listening
to this, he's like,
we do get you. We do understand you.
If Robert is listening to this, he's like writing up a restraining order against me because I keep talking about how he's my gay lover in episode after episode after episode.
Well,
because he's really hot. He's really hot. That's all.
Let's hope he either takes it as a compliment or an invitation.
Yeah.
No, I think, he's absolutely seen this movie and he absolutely digs this movie. I think he's a fan. What about you?
Great. I think so too. I think he would like it.
Yeah, it seems like a pretty obvious, I don't know. Seems like a pretty obvious take. It seems like something he would enjoy. Seems like right in that line of things. Here is someone that was absolutely alive for this movie's release, and had plenty of opportunities to see it. Do you think beloved writer of Hollywood trash, Jacqueline Suzanne, Ever saw Let's Scare Jessica to Death?
Gut reaction says no. I love that you picked her. I feel like because this movie doesn't have any quote unquote stars in it, she wouldn't have seen it. Like, I think that she sees like big blockbuster movies with, she's seeing like movies that have Warren Beatty in them, and
she's
like,
only seeing
stars.
movies that have quote unquote her friends in them. So when she goes
she's
to the
here
theater
for the
in Connecticut,
Hollywood.
she can be like, "Oh yeah, my friend Betty Davis is in this one," and I was like, "Oh, shut up, Jackie."
She's here for like the pomp and circumstance, the glamour, the glitz, the Hollywood of it all. So I think like a little indie regional horror like this, I don't think would make the cut for her. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't think there's any way she's ever seen it. And I feel like if anyone at any point had her watch it, if like late in the like 80s or something, someone got a Betamax tape of it and was like, "Jackie, let's watch Jessica," she would not have enjoyed it.
Yeah, I don't know I can't remember what the old version of like looking at your phone during a movie was, but that's what she was doing. Even though I was alive for it, I didn't have a cell phone until I was, in college. I truly cannot remember what we did before cell phones.
I mean, whatever that books is, or the newspaper. I'm sure she just like zoned out, had a couple highballs and just like fell asleep.
Quaalude and a highball, and she's tuned out of Let's Scare Jessica to Death.
I have another one that I just thought of that I really wanted an answer for.
Great.
Do you think that Big and Little Edie of the Beals of Grey Gardens have seen Let's Scare Jessica to Death?
Namesakes of my dog Edie.
Mm-hmm.
I think yes is my gut reaction, although I don't know how, because they never left their house. The 70s didn't have home video yet, so they would have had to see it at a theater. I don't know why. At least Little Edie, I feel like yes. She went to Manhattan a lot, though. She did go out. Big Edie, no, because she truly did not leave the house. I mean, she couldn't even bother to keep her top on. So I feel like Little Edie, yes. Although I don't think she cares either way about this movie. I don't think she likes it or dislike it. I feel like she saw it once, never thought about it again, but she did see it.
Okay. I find it fascinating for someone like Little Edie to be watching Let's Scare Jessica to Death, and I'm trying to imagine a screening of this where she is watching this movie and being like, "Wow, what a beautiful house."
It does probably look familiar to her a little bit. This house is in a nicer state than Grey Gardens, but it's still pretty ramshackle. They have to bathe in the lake, so yeah. I've got one more for you. This is my other celebrity crush that we've talked about lately. And I have a little story that goes with this because my friend Charlie is an actor. And when he was young, he did a project with this person before this person was super famous. And they would watch horror movies at night. And this person said to Charlie, "I want to show you one of my favorite horror movies ever." And it was Black Christmas, 1974. Oh,
hell yeah. Who is this person so I can love them even more?
Pedro Pascal. Has Pedro Pascal seen Let's Scare Jessica to Death? Because we know he loves Black Christmas and he loves horror movies.
Pedro Pascal, star of Buffy the Vampire Slayer Season 4, Episode 1, The Freshman.
Mm-hmm.
And is nothing else of note?
Nothing else of note. Except for Gal Gadot's Imagine video.
Eddie from Buffy the Vampire Slayer?
Yeah.
Which is the only thing I know him as. He's absolutely seen this. Maybe this is me just, having Pedro Pascal being a Nicolas Cage obsessive fan and the unbearable weight of massive talent stuck in my head. But now my forever view of Pedro Pascal, especially after hearing that story, is of him being a unhealthy cinephile like the rest of us.
God.
Which makes him so much hotter, if so.
Drusilla, I just want him to hold me in his big arms and for us to watch Let's Scare Jessica to Death.
I want to lay in a twin dorm bed as he reads of human bondage to me. Honestly, one of the worst things that ever happened on Buffy the Vampire Slayer is when she staked him when he was a vampire. He still wanted to be your friend, honey.
It's a great episode.
It's a great episode. I just rewatched it recently, and I adore him so much. He's so sweet. He's such a little boy. I love him.
I love that episode.
Oh, he's totally seen Let's Scare Jessica to Death. He definitely owns the Blu-ray. he's definitely watched it at least once, if not twice, since its re-release in 2020. I think he's not only a fan, I think he's a stan.
I think he's a stan too. And I stan him for it. Well, I think that's it for this episode of Bloodhouse on Let's Scare Jessica to Death. The moral is, if you don't like 70s horror movies, I'm coming for you. Drusilla, what are we watching next week?
Next week, we are traveling to France for even more fucked up relationships with Trouble Every Day.
By Claire Denis. And this is an interesting one because neither of us have seen this yet. So it'll be a first time watch for both of us.
I know, there's movies that neither of us have seen. Can you believe it?
Crazy,
other than the Karate Kid franchise?
If you like this podcast, please rate it on Apple and all the things. You can follow us on socials, Bloodhouse Pod. You can email us, bloodhousepod@gmail.com. Drusilla, where can people find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Hyde Sister, the inverse of Sister Hyde. You can find my art at sisterhydedesign.com. And you can hit me up over on Letterboxd. What about you, Josh?
I'm at Joshua Conkle on all things Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd. All right, another one in the can. We did it. Yay!